6:47, time now for the morning rush. The Secretary of Energy is addressing President Trump's promise to cut the federal workforce. Department of Energy Secretary Chris Wright visited Los Alamos National Laboratories to highlight how New Mexico will help his plan to, quote, unleash the golden era of American energy dominance. Despite recent government layoffs, Secretary Wright does not expect it will affect the labs. Meanwhile, state leaders say they're already helping federal workers who have lost their job. The Workforce Solutions Department says around 140 unemployment claims this month have come from federal workers. Cabinet Secretary Nair says they have a team dedicated to federal employment claims and is prepared to ramp up efforts if more workers are fired. Bernalillo County's undersheriff is resigning in the midst of the ongoing investigation into the DWI dismissal scandal. Johan Gereno is the highest-ranking officer named in the scheme, accusing officers to get bribes in exchange for dropping DWI cases. Gereno worked in the DWI unit before rising to second in charge of the department. Ryan.
And a temperature roller coaster this month in Clayton. Really, for most of New Mexico, we started off with record high temperatures in February. We got to 83 on February 3rd in Clayton. We cooled off a little bit toward the middle of the month. And of course, last week we had really cold air, record cold temperatures. Only got to 14 this past Tuesday, 13 this past Wednesday. Yesterday, you got to 75 and more very mild air, at least in the short term.
An Albuquerque woman is addressing political obstacles that she says are preventing her from trying to make a change in state law. Anissa Tennant is working with lawmakers to push Senate Bill 153. If passed, it would create a new criminal charge for home invasion that would be a second-degree felony. Lawmakers are hopeful bills like this one will start moving forward in the second half of the session. With less than a month left of the legislative session, work to complete the state's budget is speeding up. The proposed $10.8 billion spending plan cleared the House floor and will be heading to the Senate committee. It includes money for law enforcement recruitment and retention, transitional housing, and pay raises for teachers and school staff. Meanwhile, CYFD says there is a severe funding shortfall in the proposed budget that could jeopardize vital child welfare services. The House budget has allocated nearly $2 million in recurring general funds of the department's crucial $62 million of needed funding. CYFD Secretary Teresa Casado says this budget shortfall threatens New Mexico's ability to protect the most vulnerable children. Ryan.
And seasonably chilly to start, but warming up this afternoon to near record territory. Santa Fe got to 71 yesterday, at least around 70 today. A bit breezy in southwestern areas. There's that elevated fire threat and very warm to nearly hot conditions in southeast New Mexico, feeling more like April rather than in February, but it'll be more seasonal tomorrow with a quick hitting storm system, some precipitation to the north, cooler and breezier weather to the south.
As the Christmas decor continues to come down around Albuquerque, we're learning what new banners will soon be taking their place along the city streets. City spokesman Dan Mayfield says plans have been in place to remove these signs since February 13th. Meanwhile, ahead of the centennial celebration, these signs near Central and Eubank will soon make their way west on Route 66. Kirtland Air Force Base is now giving us a closer look into how its fire emergency services team prepares for real-world situations. The base says its first responders use a virtual reality simulator, giving firefighters realistic and immersive fire suppression training in high-risk environments without exposing participants to danger. The city of Albuquerque is choosing its recipients for the 2025 Creative Bravos Awards. Those awards are given to local organizations and artists that contribute creative excellence to the community. This year's winners include New Mexico Art League street artist Eamon Quigley and fashion designer Madison Vanderlingen. The award ceremony will be held next month. Ryan.
And taking a look at traffic right now, no major accidents nor slowdowns across the metro. Taking a look at the Big Eye right now, we do notice the influx of cars, so do expect more slowdowns as we progress throughout the morning. Minor slowdowns right now. We'll have more traffic updates throughout the rest of the morning.
A grandma in Massachusetts and her 17-year-old grandson have a special bond and a special project, and it's one that you might not expect. Deborah Luke and Connor Hendrick spend their weekends rebuilding a 1987 Firebird with Grandma leading the way. They've been working on the car for about 2 years.
And now it's time for the 5 Facts. And at number 5, the city of Albuquerque has chosen its recipients for the 2025 Creative Bravos Awards. Those awards are given to local organizations and artists that contribute creative excellence to the community. This year's winners include the New Mexico Art League, street artist Eamon Quigley, fashion designer Madison Van Der Liggen, and art programmer leader Julia Monroe Vanderville, and more. And award ceremonies will be held next month.
At number 4, Kirtland Air Force Base is now giving us a closer look into how its fire emergency services team prepares for real-world situations. The base says its first responders use a virtual reality simulator, giving firefighters realistic and immersive fire suppression training in high-risk environments without exposing participants to danger. The team is also equipped with an advanced simulation mannequin that allows responders to practice emergency medical procedures in realistic settings.
And at number 3, near record to record warmth today in places like Santa Fe, Silver City, even near Alamosa and Hobbs. Now, a bit breezier today in southern and western New Mexico, especially with the elevated fire threat. But with a quick hitter of a storm system overnight, we're going to be seeing a tail-end cold front kick up the fire threat in southeast New Mexico. The best chance of precipitation will be in the higher elevations with mostly a rain event, maybe a little bit of wet snow.
At number 2, with less than a month left of the legislative session, work to complete the state's budget is speeding up. The proposed $10.8 billion spending plan cleared the House floor and will head to the Senate committee. It includes money for law enforcement, recruitment and retention, transitional housing and pay raises for teachers and school staff, and is nearly 6% larger than last year's. And at number 1, as the Trump administration looks to reduce the size of government, state leaders say they're ready to help federal workers who have lost their jobs. The Workforce Solutions Department says around 140 unemployment claims this month have come from federal workers. The department say it's hard for them to know how many total workers have been fired, since some of them may not have claimed unemployment. Most claims so far have come from Albuquerque, followed by Carlsbad, Santa Fe, Rio Rancho, and Las Cruces. Cabinet Secretary Nair says they have a team dedicated to federal employment claims and is prepared to ramp up efforts if more workers lose their jobs.